Hi, lovelies. Welcome to today's episode. Welcome. Find the seat, find the space. There is room for everybody. How are we doing? So, today we'll be talking about books, just books. If you were asked to describe or define books, or someone asked you, what do books mean to you? How would you describe them? How would you How would you define books? Personally, I believe that there aren't enough words to encompass the full essence of books, to put together what they. I do not think there is ever any words that fully describe books. I don't think so. But if I ever were to describe what books are, I would describe them in three sentences. I would say books are portals to other worlds. I'll call books mirrors to our souls. And I'll also describe books as the quiet companions in the loudest seasons. Beyond the fancy terms, beyond the poetic words. I find, I see books as time machines, yeah. I see books as time machines that transport you, not just even just between worlds and all of those, but with books, I enjoy the fact that books could take, with books you could be here in the 20s, you could be in the 30s, you could be in the 50s, you could be in the 60s, you could be in the 70s. Books just takes you not just with transportation within worlds, but between times as well. I love that aspect, that part that says the portals. One moment you are reading a book, you are reading about the 20s, you're reading about the BCs, you're reading about the 80s. Just that means of transportation from time to time and the world. You could be in Nigeria here and you're transported to England. You could be in England, you're transported to Netherlands. You could be in Netherlands and you find yourself in USA. Just with books. Just with books. I find that really, really beautiful. Like the fact that books can do that to you for you. The idea that you could know so much about worlds that you've never been part of, cultures that you've never been brought up in. You could know so much, you could relate so much with them just by picking up a book. Just by picking up a book or having read about them for so long. For so long. Have you guys realized or thought of it that how are archaeologists, paleontologists, history related fields, how are they so sure of the things they know? How are we so sure that why have we ever sure that there were times dinosaurs ever existed? How how are we so sure that at some point there were kings like this, there were kingdoms like this, there were people like this? How are we sure? What makes us so resolute in our thoughts, in our decisions, that oh yes, this existed, that existed, there was a time like that, there were moments like this? How are we so sure about them? Because they've been documented over time by people, by historians, by art, like over time, in such a way, in such vivid terms that you cannot but believe or understand. You cannot just but believe that yes, this did exist, and thank God for such descriptive and comprehensive history. Not only are they believable, but they are also comprehensible and understanding, so much so that they are so vivid it feels like you were in those times, you experienced it, you witnessed it. That is what books does. That is how books portals you or transfers you, or should rather, do I say transports rather? Yeah, transports is the word. How books transport you from one moment in time to another moment in time, and from worlds to worlds, country to country, states to states, places to places. An author could just be living in a different reality and conjure up worlds far beyond human imagination. Think Harry Potter, think Lord of the Rings, think fantastical worlds that you could never have imagined. How could any of those worlds have been put down? How were they even thought of? Think Narnia, all of those things. I remembered my first time ever watching, the adaptation, the book adaptation for the Lord of the Rings franchise, The Hobbits and the rest. And I kept, I keep getting wild. And like, I was so wild that time. And I still am. Like, each time I decide that, oh, it's time for a Lord of the Ring franchise rerun, I just cannot help but be amazed and be mesmerized and just be blown. How is it possible for a being, someone to just sit and come up with such beautiful, oh my goodness, like such vivid worlds beyond reality, beyond the norm. You are reading Harry Potter, you're reading all of those Narnia and all of those worlds that were created by authors, and you're like, how were they ever how? And you are living in a total different reality, and you're transported towards like that, and it just feels nostalgic. It feels real when you're reading them. You're just sucked in and brought into worlds that have never existed and them do not exist, but still feel so real and vivid. That is what books does. And when we talk about quiet companions in louder seasons, another reason why books are just unhinged for me. With books are such companions where they demand, not just demand, they command it your silence. With books are when you're having a conversation, be it just you and someone else, you and two other people, you and three other people, there's a conversation going on, you're talking, the person you're speaking to is talking, your third or fourth companion as well. You guys, there's a conversation going on. But with books, you are forced to be quiet. There's a conversation going on, there's a discussion going on, there is something going on between you and this book companion, but you are made to be quiet, to be silent and listen. I love that part about books, they command it your silence while you're having a discussion. Yes, I know it might seem one way, but that is what books or who books are. The fact that you cannot help but listen to what they're talking about, and it's such a one-way conversation but still comprehensive enough. I mean, depending on the type of books that really works for you. And sometimes it doesn't even have to be your favorite type of books. As far as the book is properly written, there is an effective communication going on. You just get in, and the book is speaking, the book is talking, and you're just there listening, enjoying the conversation. That is just really beautiful, if you ask me. That is beautiful. That really is beautiful. And that is who or what books are. In the pages of books, sometimes you find your answers, and you're in the page, and sometimes you just find comfort in the fact that, oh, I'm not alone. That is one of the reasons I will never stop reading. The fact that I could just find comfort, people go most times, oftentimes rather, people go to books to find answers and all of those. But the fact that you could pick up a book and it's so relatable, it makes so much sense. And you just be like, there are days that I will just read, times I'll read a book, and I'm like, wow, this person is in African, this writer is in African. This culture isn't exactly an African or Nigerian culture story, but they are so relatable. And I find myself thinking, and I'm like, wow, we've lived such similar lives. That is what books are. Not just finding answers, in the pages, in their pages, but the fact that there is comfort, that there is comfort, you find yourself relating to some things, and the comfort you get from knowing you're not alone, oh my goodness, it makes it all worthwhile. It makes it all very worthwhile. It makes it all very worthwhile. My earliest introduction into books has to be, I think, while I was around the age of 5, 6, 7, thereabouts. My dad is an ardent, avid newspaper reader. He reads newspaper a lot, a whole lot. And growing up in a household where, it was a gated household, if you're Nigerian, they say, oh, you're no more get inside and all of that. Growing up in that kind of environment, in that kind of state, we were mostly indoors, and there were times where I would just be so bored, I'll be bored out of my mind. Then I'll go to my dad's room and read newspapers, because each time he's done with each time he's done reading a particular publication, he's done with one. There is a place in his room that he stacks up these newspapers. He stacks them up. They're so high. I'll go to his room and pick the newspapers and start reading them one by one, page to page. And then there were a lot of things I didn't understand, but still, I just found comfort in the fact that, oh, I'm reading this, I'm reading that, and how even in my childish mind, how every other thing seems to pale at that moment, like every other thing is thrown into the background at that moment, at that time, while I'm reading those newspapers. And I'll read and read and read until my attention is being called, or maybe I get tired and I just want to, leave. And on the days where for some reason I'm busy, even while being a child at that age, I'll dream or fantasize of, oh yeah, the time that I'll go back to read those newspapers. That was really just how I started. And I remember when got into, should I call it, primary school, and we had such little literatures. And then in school we had those guys that sold this little book leaflets. Oh my goodness, they were my words then. Very, very tiny. They really weren't huge. They were just like at most 10, 30, 40 pages or 20 pages. So, averagely 20, at most 30, 40 pages. They had such corny and cheesy titles like The Wicked Stepmother, Ade the Excellent Boy, The End of a Bad, The Reward of a Stingy Man, all of those cheesy, corny books. And they would state that gauge the time that, would be done with school, and they'll stay outside the school gate. And then I remember how I would save my extra pocket money. We took lunch boxes to school, but then we're still giving extra small change just in case we needed anything. I remember how I would save my money, buy buy those books from these guys, and I'll go home after I'm done with my chores. I'll sit down, probably waiting for mom or dad to be back from work, and I'll sit downside and read these books. And they were so tiny. In fact, I think calling them books were that that's like they were just tiny leaflet, but they meant the whole world to me. It was They were cheesy. Now thinking, being matured and being understanding and all of that, they were so cheesy. They were such cheesy stories, but then they really weren't. They made my day, and I would fantasize and I'll build the scenarios and these worlds in my head. Where when I'm reading this book, those books I might take my friends or my classmates, I might take them a week or some more than 4 or 5 days to read. I'll buy them today and read them by tomorrow. And I'm back to these guys' stands to buy more because I wanted to read them. They made so much sense. Just thinking about those times now, those really were my foundations to reading and books. I remember getting into junior secondary school as well. Even while in primary school, I remember our English textbooks. There were short stories in those things, some parts, on different chapters. Some stories were, they were taken from different books, from different literature texts, and some were just made up or created for the purpose of that particular exercise, or exercise that they wanted us to do. Sometimes it could be that you should summarize this short story, find similar words in this story, or leave in gaps and ask you to just all those English texts and English text and examples, and all of those in those textbooks. I remember I would just sit down. I'll read all the stories, the adapted stories in the English textbooks. When I'm done with the one for my class, if I think around, then I'll go to other people's classes, other classes higher than mine, even below mine. I'll look for familiar faces of friends that I have there. I'll borrow their textbooks just to read those short stories. I did this even till I got into junior secondary school. And when I got into junior secondary school, we had literature text because we did literature in English. And we had something called scheme of work. So in literature and English scheme of work, I'll check the list of books that was required for us to read for that term, for that session, and I'll go buy them. I'll bug my mom, bug my dad that, oh, if we don't buy these books now, I might, they started reading it and I don't have it yet. Meanwhile, our teacher might have not even mentioned them, and I'll bug my mom to buy them from the market. And when it got to a point that we had someone selling books right in front of my house, I will go to her and buy them. Sometimes I won't, even when my parents don't answer me on time, I'll just scrape up money, all my pocket money. I will buy it just to make sure, because I was so excited to read these books. It just made so much sense to me, gave me such fulfillment. There was so much fulfillment I got from reading them. And when I then proceeded into senior secondary school, I couldn't get as much, like, I wasn't, because I was a science student, and we didn't science student didn't really do literature. So it was literature became a subject for just art students, and I think commercial students. I can't really remember. I remember after our classes, because we were segregated, there were art students, commercial students, then science students. We had different classes, and we only came together when we had combined classes like mathematics and just English, not literature. Then I'll go to their class and borrow their literature text. Then I remember I used to look at the art students, my classmates then, and I'll be so appalled at how they find themselves being in the center of books and reading, and they seemed to not enjoy, or They hated it. A lot of them didn't enjoy it. That's if they don't even outrightly hate reading. And they will willingly borrow me their books just so, I could summarize them, or in times where they had impromptu tests and all of those, they come and meet me and just say and ask me that, "Please, what did I read? What did you read? What's the book about?" And I'll be like, "What?" But I was happy to really do it because those books, they just, it was they were not even they were funny enough. I grew up reading really African stories. They were not even international books per se. They just African Nigerian books, but the storytelling was beautiful. Even till now, while I've grown up, I can tell a good book compared to a bad book, or good writing compared to a bad writing, or even an average writing that I could really tell. And I pride myself in the fact that I know what a good book is when I read one. Or probably from the first chapter, I could almost tell that, oh, even if it seems boring, even if it seems lengthy, I can almost tell that this book has a good chance of turning out to be one. When I think back to those books, they still meet my standards of what a good book should be. It was basically the storytelling. It was impeccable. The storytelling was what storytelling is. They were telling stories, and as Africans, Nigerians, we really are rooted in folklores, in stories. When we're younger, at least for me, then when everyone is settled, there really isn't much to do. My mom will sit us down, tell us stories, being made up, and some stories about our childhood. And I remember how I would sit with such rapt attention, just taking it in, soaking it in. That was the feeling I got from reading these books. It was just pure storytelling. Pure storytelling. And I have a sister now that is an English student, and there are sometimes I read her text, literature text, and and they are reading books, these books that I've read while in secondary school, and it just makes sense. Just beautiful storytelling, just beautiful. Nothing, no big drama, no unnecessary just good storytelling. Books like Purple Hibiscus, Half of a Yellow Sun, Last Days at Focado's High School, Women of Owu, The Incorruptible George, our husband has gone mad again, Arrow of God, Joys of Motherhood, Lion and the Jewel, Chicky and the River, The Drummer Boy. I could go on and on and on and on. And we probably wouldn't really live here. Like, if I continued, it just made such sense, so much sense. Then, and I never entering university, proceeding into university, I remember in my first year slash diploma here, yeah, I got introduced into Wattpad. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I think that was when a year before I got into school. I think I had, that almost a year when you're writing your jams or post jams, UTME, diploma foundation exams. I think that was when I kind of got into a little bit of Sydney Sheldon, Nora Roberts, and Sandra Brown. I think and Ali Queen. Yeah, that was when I really got into Ali Queen. Ali Queen was my introduction. Yes, into should I so it was my introduction into international books. I remember how I would stay wrapped under my bed, under my blanket rather, just reading romance books. I don't even understand a lot of things, but it just made sense. Then I found Sydney Sheldon. I think I read one Dan Brown. I think I read the Dan Brown book novel, and I wouldn't say scared me, but it felt huge and just beyond what I normally read. Nora Robert and Sandra Brown. And when I got into university, I got introduced to Wattpad. It's funny that I still have it now. And as cheesy and toxic as a lot of stories that are written on there, I have books, just not so much that I stand by them, even having involved in the type of books that I read now that are really good books. They just really any thinking about all of this, like a memory. It's just start going down the memory line, and it's just so nostalgic. It's so nostalgic. As an average reader, I used to, should I say, probably say as an average reader, I read a lot of books, and I don't even have like, okay, bias would be favorite, but I read, as far as, like I said, as far as it's a good book, good writing, good storytelling, count me in. But I do have my genres that no matter what I'm buying at no matter whatever time or whatever moment I'm buying a book, you always find that genre, even if it's one in every stack that I buy, or rather I would say it's the most it has the most it's the most books in my genre in my stacks. And then they are my favorite genres, like psychological thrillers. I just anything thriller crimes, historical. I'm beginning to fall in love with historical fiction. They are beginning to have my heart. Then Christian fiction, anything Christian fiction, be it psychological Christian fiction, thriller Christian fiction, romance Christian fiction, crime and thriller Christian fiction. You'll be really surprised how good Christian fictions t- that crime and thrillers. You'll be surprised how good they are. When I found authors like the Anderson and how she interwove and just merged Christian fiction and thriller, oh my god, I was sold. I was so impressed because most Christian fiction I'd ever read or normally read were historically based and some romance based, but to find an author that properly infuses Christian fiction, infuses Christian the Bible into crime and thriller. Oh my goodness, I was blown. I really, really worship my Christian fiction author. And yes, and what else? Those are my majorly my favorite genres, like favorite in all of the world, favorite. And memoirs. Oh, memoirs are my favorite non-fiction books. I love them so much. I love them so very much. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I read really good memoirs over time. I think with memoirs, it separates because most of the time when people write memoirs, maybe because they are important figures in the society, probably celebrities, really quite important people. And when I read their memoirs, it separates their should I say public figure, public persona, and it feels like I'm knowing them or I'm reading about them or I'm being introduced to their lives in a more personal, intimate and deeper level. And then when I read some things about them and I'm like, wow, so this person faces something like this person has gone through things like this. When you read them, their childhood, their beliefs, their thoughts, what they go through, their struggles, you just come to realize that these people are just humans as well. When you see them on the runway, probably for celebrities or maybe for public figures in different areas of like probably academia, politics, science, and all of those, and they are giving keynotes, they are giving public speeches. They seem like people that are unreachable, they are far beyond. They seem like aliens. But then you are reading books and you're reading about them, that you're reading about their lives, written by they themselves, and you're just like, wow, this is just this person has similar upbringing as mine. Maybe their life isn't the same as mine now, but they feel similar things. Their day to day ordinary life is similar to mine. And you just come to understand, or probably just see them in a better light and be less judgmental, or give them more grace. That's just memoirs. Oh my goodness, I love memoirs so much. I love them so much. So yeah, if I were to talk about my favorite authors, oh my god, I don't think we'll leave here, but there are some authors. I appreciate books. I appreciate, as much as I appreciate books, I appreciate good writers. I appreciate good writers. And there are days where, when I'm feeling just sentimental, or just really, really cool and chilling in my prayer moments, I just thank God for good books and good writers. I just thank God for those, because I'll just be like, God, thank you for big writers, authors that write good books. Thank you for good books. And some of those authors are um Francine Rivers. Oh my goodness. It's safe to say I have read every book she has written, especially every book she's written, especially since she got saved, since she gave her life to Christ. Every book, and I'm not even joking, every single book she has written, Francine Rivers releases a book today, I am there, like nothing, like something I do not know. I am there, I am sat. I am there. With Francine Rivers brings the Bible to you. I wouldn't say she brings the Bible to life, because the Bible is alive. But she brings, if you are someone who struggles with understanding the Bible, just read Francine Rivers or Tessa Afshar. You will not, you would understand in a way. They just make it so relatable and so understanding. Ah, she is my favorite female author, be it Christian, overall female, best author, best. No one comes close. And and Tedeka, oh my goodness, I've never seen anyone that writes books ah, in such in such in such unparalleled manner, in such unparalleled manner. Ted Dekker writes book in a way that is so odd. You cannot help but love his writing style. Is majorly a psychological thriller or just crime thriller, Christian fictions. But books, Jesus. I don't think there are words that can mix that make that there are not enough words that can explain how good Tedeka writes. Its writing is beyond the norm. I've never seen someone write like that. I've never read books that like he is. He writes beyond, his writing is beyond the normal writing, the way everyone writes it, or the way books normally are written. It's just beyond the norm. Then there are people like Karen Kingsbury. Oh my goodness, she's so good. Her books are so good. They are so uplifting. It's like they reignite your faith. There's the Anderson, very, very brilliant. These are Christian fictions, mind you. Francine Rivers, the Decker, there's Tessa Ashar, the Anderson, Karen Kingsbury, very, mm, mm, mm. They deserve their flowers. They really do deserve it. Then if I'm thinking, okay, just normal thriller fiction crimes, the best crime authors in this world, and I stand by my statement, as Scandinavian crime authors. I have authors or crime and thriller authors that I really love. I really appreciate their writing. I really give kudos to their writing. But I do not think there are anyone that comes close to Scandinavian authors. They deserve every flower. And it breaks my heart that, yeah, it literally does that. They are not as well known as they should be. There are people as for crime lovers, lovers. They are sleeping on Scandinavian authors. They are sleeping on them. They really, really are. Authors like Jonesbo, Stieg Larsson. Oh my goodness, their writing is just no words, no words at all, no words, no words at all, no words, no words is enough. There aren't enough words. And then I have my beloved Karen Rose, Karen Slaughter. They just kill it. She's my best, my best female crime authors. Karen Slaughter. With Karen Rose, she mixes it with a little bit of Karen Rose rather, she mixes her hours with a little bit of romantic suspense with her thrillers. I think that's one of the reasons why I love her. And our thrillers are not so terrible. They're just your normal mundane thrillers and normal mundane crimes. But with Karen Slaughter, I love the goriness. Karen Karen Slaughter rather, the baby in Karen's. With Karen Slaughter, she doesn't mind giving us a little bit of gory. That is one of the reasons why I love her. She's not afraid of the gory. With Karen Slaughter, when you are reading her books, when you are trying to find who the serial killer is, or his MO for killings, be scared of what you're about to find out, because you really would be scared by the time she's done. By the time you get to the point where you're learning who the real bad person or all of those, be scared, because there is gory, and I love that. I love that about her books. And there is Khalid Hosseini as well. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Khalid is an Afghan American writer. I think he's written 4 books so far, and I've read like three. And he is an historical fiction writer, and I don't know. There's a lot of times when I read reviews about his books, like the Kite Runner, and the Kite Runner. I forgot. Oh my goodness. I can't believe I forgot. I forgot the title. I had to go check it. The Kite Runner and the Thousand Splendid Suns. I've read a lot of the reviews, seen reels on Book Talk, Bookstagram and all of that. And there are people who say they cried while reading them. I really, I really didn't cry, but with these books, there's such emotions that it brings out of me. It commands my emotions in such a way that I can't even describe it really. And each time I read this book, whenever I read this book, I'm reminded, or should I say, I'm transported back to the time when I was younger and I read African stories. I feel that way whenever I read these books. There's a storytelling aspect to his writing that I don't think, like, it's not so common. He writes is such emotional, so melancholic, and so nostalgic at the same time. Imagine having a feeling of nostalgia for a place you've never been. That is, I could go on and on really about authors and all of that. There are a lot of authors that I really love their books. These ones, should I say, are just people or authors whose books, when I see, I would pick in a heartbeat without even reading the blogs or checking a short story, or sometimes even checking the reviews. Most times before I buy a book, I'll check the reviews, see what others say about it. But these ones are just people that before I won't even check the blogs, I won't check the reviews. Do they have a new book out? Are there books in their series that I haven't read? And I am picking it in an instant. That's just it. That's just basically it. There are a lot of authors, if I keep going over and over again, this episode we won't finish. And okay, yeah, that's just a summary, or should I say, a basis of some of the authors that really they just do it for me. Recently, I had a conversation with a friend. I think I posted something about it's just a meme and of something a meme kind of something where I think the guy was like as a reader or a book lover you should that even if you are not reading you should always have like at least three books in your with you, maybe whenever you're traveling or you're going out there should always be a book in your hand. And so I can't remember how the meme read, to be honest. I can't really remember how the meme read, but something at the end of that meme had something to do with about a book, a favorite book, a book where you could take to the grave. And a friend saw it, and I think he just hit me up and was like, we just got talking, and he asked me a question that, okay, if what book would I say that, oh, if come what may, I die or something, what book can I, or that I love so much so that I'm willing to take it to the grave? And I just kept thinking that, wow, I know it might not seem like much of a question, to be honest, but it felt so real to me, and I just got thinking, me, I wouldn't really say I have a favorite. Then I just thought of it and I said, I wouldn't really say that I have a favorite book, really, because I read books only. I go through them like water these days. To some point, it's bordering on obsession. That's another. I digress. But that I've read so much, I was not thinking about it. And I replied saying that, oh my goodness, that's such a tough. It felt like a tough question that I've read so much books, really great books, some not so great books, and just averagely made books. And I thought of it, thought of it, and I think I knew that it's never just one. I don't think one just tops it. That one that overall there really isn't one, but there are like two, three books that takes the cake that they've had. That I won't yeah that should I say have had the most impact on me. They've had the most impact on me. You could call them favorite. I don't even know if favorite is what I'll call them, because over time I've read, should I say, better books, or even more better books by same authors, but they've just had the most impact on me. They've had the most impact. I think one of said books is for non-fiction. It has to be Quiet, the Power of an Introvert in a World That Won't Stop Talking by Susan Cain. Ah, I don't think there is any book that's just I don't know how to explain that book. It might just be a normal book for a random or a normal any everyday, or just a normal average book for another person, but it's a book that has had such impact on me in such a positive manner. And I think another reason why it is like that, because it's not exactly a self help. There's nothing even exactly. It's not a self help book. It's like you're reading a documentary slash journal. I don't know how to put it really. Like the research that went into that, I can't imagine the research actually that went into that book. I really cannot imagine it, because it was so evident that she did so much research. She mentioned it, in research and all of this, but not aside mentioning it while reading the book, you could tell that a lot of research and a lot of work went into that book, into the writing of that book, into understanding the minds of introverts. And as an introvert, you cannot but relate, at least to 50% of a lot of things that were being said, or a lot of topics that were raised in that book. It felt so empowering. I think it just helped me love myself more because I'm an introvert too. I'm your textbook definition of who an introvert or what an introvert is. And I think that's one of the reasons why it had such impact on me. If a normal average person or even an extrovert read it, it might just be a good normal book. But for me, it was a phenomenal book. It made such, I could go on it, to be really honest. And then, okay, the two other books that I would say that have been they've had such impact that I really cannot really forget them has to be Mark of the Lion series by Francine Rivers. Oh my god, I think I read this in my third or second year in university. I got introduced into Francine Rivers, like Francine Rivers books by a friend. I think she got The Redeeming Love. She got it as a gift from my elder brother for her birthday, and she talked about it, and I asked, and she borrowed me the book, and that was the first time about I had read something so profound. Like it was the Bible. It was like I was the Bible person. There was just a way she interjected and related that story, a biblical story, and made it so ordinary and so, it just felt like it was something that could happen, on a random day. It made so much sense. So I think, and I thought to myself, or made it a mission that she's such a good writer. I'm going to read all that she's ever written. Ah, and then I came across Mark of the Lion series. There is no words really. There really, if I start to say if I say I want to start telling you what I loved about it, I'll just keep going on and probably ramble half because there is just no words. It was so phenomenal. And I can never, there are times that I've forgotten like a lot of the plot, but it stays committed to my memory, and I will always be grateful that she God gave her such creativity for her to come up with such a story and to write it in such a profound manner. And then the last book that I would say that really impacted me, or that would stay with me till God knows when, till probably I don't have memory again, would be the Circle series by Ted Decker. I have never read any book like that in my life. I've never read a book that in such mannerism or in such a writing manner in my life. It's so funny because I struggled for the first book in the series. Was it black? Was it green or red? I've forgotten the first book of the series. Can imagine for a book that I found so impactful, that's saying so much. But I struggled. But when I got to the ending part of the first book, ah, ah, I knew I had a gem in my hands. I just knew it. That was then that I was like, I made it a point of duty that I was going to read everything Ted Decker has ever written in this world. Everything and anything. So yeah, basically, those are the books that I would say that I can really never forget them. If I'm ever talking about books, or if there are days where I just feel a sense of nostalgia and melancholy, I just think back to them and I smile that in my life I've read such books. Yes, that I've read such. I feel proud, yes, of myself that I've read books, such books, and not only just read them, but I read them in a way that I understood what the writer was trying to communicate. So much so that the impact of the words of the story, the lessons that the writer might have been was open to teach. I got all of those It makes me really proud of myself as a person. I feel really proud. I feel really proud. So yeah, that's just basically it. And I think I'm sure that from all the ramblings and all my talking, I'm sure it's very obvious how much books genuinely they make me happy, and I think it's the thing that is the part of my what takes most of my money. To be honest, books and probably skincare. I would spend my last penny on books. I would spend my last kobo on books. I love them that much. And I'm sure with all of my talking, it's very evident. They make me happy. Now, it's even beyond reading the books now, Seth. It's more now like sometimes when I'm having a rough day, I'm having, a rough day, a long day, I'll just go to my stack, be it read or read books. I'll just probably just go scroll through some pages mindlessly, or just inhale and sniff the books, and it's enough to should I if not even just wipe it, if it doesn't wipe away the whole stress of the long day, it's enough to put a smile on my face and make me just feel better basically. And there are days when I'm feeling so down. Maybe I've been having a couple of long days. It's just been too long, and just buying probably a new book and few books is enough to help me feel better. I just went to shop on books. My birthday was last week, and my sister got me a book that I've been really longing to read. When I saw the book, you would think I got you would think I won a lottery. She was just looking at that. It's just a book, and it meant so much to me, considering the fact that I've been looking for it for so very long. So, and it's not a common. It's not so common. It's not what you find in most, on most book selling stores online or even a physical store. But that's what books are for me. They really, really make me happy. You want to make me happy. You want my attention. Just talk about books. Give me a book. Let's window shop on books. Anything bookish. I'm sat. I am sat. Books reading. They just do it for me. I feel like one of books are just one of those things that the world should all not just himself, the world itself should be always grateful for. You can find the essence or the impact or the need for books in every sphere and aspect of life. Academia, fashion magazines are books in a way, to be honest. Fashion magazines, they are book magazines, journals, fashion, they are books in a way. So books are they they are they just make sense. They just really, really do. They just really, really do. So yeah, I believe everyone should read. It's just the betterment of your vocabulary, your comprehension levels, your level of understanding, the knowledge, and let's not deny the escapism that comes from it. The fact that you could leave this whole world behind, you could forget about your situation, you could just relax and bask in the comfort that books offers. That crowns it all. That crowns it all. So, anyways, we'll be drawing the curtains on today's episode. Thank you guys for this. I think our second episode now, and it's better. It's getting better. I'm getting an hang of things, and yeah. So I'm gonna have to just say bye. I'm gonna see you. No, not see you. I keep making that mistake. You guys will hear from me. Anyways, that's it for today. Bye.